Hello and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and today your co-host is the host that was with me since number 001. It is the almighty PALPAKELLI. Thank you for being on, PALPAKELLI.
Hello, thank you for swinging by my sector again.
If this is your very first episode, the way we format the show is we go through a block of news, and then this month we do have the What's New on HBO Max, the July 2022 highlights, and then we end it with the Brokehead block, which is what PALPAKELLI and I have been doing since you last heard us. So let's jump right in and explore sector number 515. Kicking things off with some Pokemon TCG news as a player named Matthew Verive entered the North American International Championships, which is the highest regional championship in North America. And this is the event that Bobby was at, one of the other co-hosts that you hear right here on the show. He was actually a judge, and you can check out the pictures on our Discord. But this man, Matthew, entered the tournament with a deck made up entirely of promo jumbo-sized cards. These are nearly the size of a comic book each.
This man is my hero. Way back when you and I used to play TCG together, and it's been many, many years, but I always wanted to have one of those in my back pocket. And so I'd go to put out the smaller card and be like, oh, wait a sec, boom. And just because it was ridiculous. There's no reason for cards to be that big. But this man, he did all this work to get to this tournament and saw his chance, and he took it.
From what I understand, Matthew is also very familiar with the rules. I believe he is a judge himself, so he knew he could do this.
Yes.
It wasn't in the rules that said anything about jumbo cards. But the 60-card deck contained only Pokemon cards, as the Pokemon Company has never printed jumbo trainer or energy cards. He ended up pulling out of the tournament after one official match because none of his Pokemon could actually attack due to the lack of energy.
Aw, lame.
His opponent, though, did throw one match, and it's just so he could say he won a match with that giant deck.
He may not have had energy, but he had heart, and we should have let him go through just for that.
The judges did tell Verive that if he hadn't dropped out of the tournament, his deck would have likely been disqualified for having marked cards. The jumbo cards are not printed to the same standards as normal Pokemon cards, although that standard isn't really that high when you really think about it. So that does mean that some of the cards were easily identifiable. It was not sleeved. So next time, if he's able to sleeve his giant deck, then he'll be able to actually not get disqualified for it.
Is he going to sleeve him with bags and boards?
I was thinking that supposedly there are sleeves that are large enough to cover those.
Oh my God, that's insane.
Haven't seen them. I've put mine in bags and boards for comic book ones, and that's how I preserve mine. They do binders that fit those jumbo cards, but I'm sure someone out there has now made some that have a solid backing. That way you can actually play with them.
That's insane. But they need to make energy cards now. Let's just have a whole tournament of just jumbo cards. That sounds like a great time.
We need energy cards. We need trainer cards. I think as they continue to make these, hopefully, eventually they'll make some energy cards, because I'd collect some jumbo energies. Those are really cool.
And let's not stop at this. Let's make them poster size, gigantic movie poster size, and have tournaments with those.
Did you ever hear how Yu-Gi-Oh! Didn't have, up to a certain point, they didn't have a limit on deck size. So there was one guy in the tournament, and you can see in the images, if you search it up on Google, that needed two friends to help him carry his deck in. The problem is it took you forever to shuffle.
Right.
So they had to implement a rule at tournaments so that kind of nonsense wouldn't happen.
But see, these are the heroes that we need. These kind of people who go through the rules and they're like, you don't have a rule for this silly ass shit, so I'm going to do it. But you also notice it's only men, so I don't know.
Well, yeah. That's the majority of these players anyway. On the other side of gaming, there is some trouble on Sega's part, as after a number of gamers have voiced their disapproval of Sonic Origins over the past few days, a developer took to Twitter to speak out on the issue.
So you're going to have to give me a little more background, because I have not video gamed in a very long time. So tell me a little bit more about Sonic Origins. Is it like Sonic Adventure Battle 2, which is my like favorite Sonic game ever.
So this one collects the original Sonic games for the Sega Genesis, including Sonic and Knuckles, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which were the ones that you cartridged together.
Okay.
And then it also throws in, I believe, Sonic CD. And it's in a classic collection, basically. And Maceo and I have talked about it in the past, how the Sega releases the collection constantly. And you can buy it on your phone right now. You can buy the old Sega games. So when we covered how they announced this, he was like, big deal. You can buy any of these already. But it worked. Gamers bought up yet another Sonic collection. And
if it was Star Fox, you would have bought it.
Oh, fuck yeah. But that's not available on my fucking phone. This is different. This is like widely available. They release it all the time. It's like fucking GTA 5 at this point, how they release that on every console. So that's what it is. It's a collection of the classic games.
Okay.
And the developer, Simon Stealth Tomley, who works at Headcanon, and they previously did Sonic Mania, which was the sort of new game that paid homage to those classic games. They never got a chance at a sequel, unfortunately, but they got to work on this port, and he said, quote, on Twitter, regarding Origins, we were outsiders creating a separate project that was then wrangled into something entirely different. We knew going in that there would be a major time crunch, and we worked ourselves into the ground to meet it just so this would be made and released. Again, I can take responsibility for my team's mistakes, and there were some actual mistakes, some overlooking, some rush jobs, some stuff we noticed but weren't allowed to correct near the end. It's absolutely not perfect, and some of it is from us. It's complicated, end quote. So unfortunately, a lot of these glitches made their way to Twitter, and I was confused by it because it's a port of an old game. How are we having glitches on these?
Right, and that's my first question, right? But the developer calls himself Stealth. Simon Stealth.
It's his gamer tag or whatever.
I don't know. So I already don't trust him just for that. I'm like, why do you need a silly name, sir? Why can't you just be a developer?
He's trying to feel cool.
But it definitely does not make sense if, like you're saying, you can get these all the time on all these different platforms. Why are there so many challenges now just putting them? And I mean, I don't know. I don't rate games, so like, fuck me. What do I know? But I sense some holes here.
That's the frustrating thing, too, because as this is available through almost all consoles on your phone, and you get somehow glitches on it, and I'm sure there are some translation things that have to happen when you put it from one machine to another. I totally get that. But why weren't these issues back during the GameCube when they had the Mega Collection or since then?
Mm-hmm.
And he has said that they have offered their services to Sega to patch up a bunch of these problems, but that so far Sega has not taken them up on it.
Nah, Sega said, I already made my money.
Basically, yeah. And even though, and some gamers have threatened, like, this is my last Sonic game. I have to buy if they don't fix this.
It's not.
It's not. When Sonic fucking Frontiers comes out, they're going to buy that shit. I did like this article from Newsarama, and I purposely put it on here knowing that you would be on because I know how much you love Batman the Animated Series. And the article was reflecting on how Batman the Animated Series has changed the DC Universe forever. So coming up on September 5th, 2022, it'll be the 30th anniversary of the animated series. That's also the month. That's the 10th year anniversary of this podcast. Coincidence? I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
Lots to celebrate in September. But they talked about some of the new characters that were introduced in the animated series. So the big one, of course, was Harley Quinn, the most popular addition from this cartoon. Renee Montoya, who later on became The Question and Batwoman's love interest. Nora Freeze, who helped with Mr. Freeze's new origin. Andrew Belmont, the Phantasm. Red Claw, not too popular, but she has since made her debut in the Catwoman series last month. Lockup, another one that wasn't popular at all. He's the one who over-punished people at Arkham. And that's when Batman had to go in there and fight him because he went too hard with the law, basically.
Okay.
Only showed up in one episode from what I remember. The Condiment King, he's shown up in the Lego Batman movie.
Yeah, he's great.
Kyodai Ken, he only lasted 2 episodes.
I do remember him.
And finally, the Sewer King.
I love the Sewer King. We need to see more of the Sewer King.
Yeah, let's talk about these new characters that eventually made their way into other things. The Sewer King showed up in the Batman Catwoman comic book, the maxi series. So obviously Harley Quinn's your favorite, but how do you feel about these additions overall? Like as you reflect on some of these old episodes?
I just think it's incredible. So since Batman the Animated Series, now almost 30 years ago, right? We've had so many different Batman animated shows. And could you tell me a single character that stuck around from any of those? I really can't. And granted, I didn't watch them as much as the animated series, right? But even talking about, you mentioned Lego Batman or the comic books, or most of these characters have shown up again throughout the DC universe. And, I think it's just a great testament to how great the show was, how great the writing was, the team that worked on this to do really innovative things with the animation style that's made it last this long. And 30 years later, we're still talking about it. It's still your favorite Batman anything. Leo loves it. He's 4 years old. And so it really just stands the test of time.
What's really funny about the Sewer King in particular for me is that it should be a frightening villain. Like if you really break the character down, like you ignore the pirate stuff on him, which actually you should like him because he's a kind of a pirate guy. He controls crocodiles, which is like, all right, that's kind of crazy and silly, but he kidnaps kids and he makes them work in the sewers.
He kidnaps like orphans, yes.
They're still kids.
I know.
And if you, who are they all strict? Do we know that they're all strictly orphans?
We don't.
It's still fucked up. He has them down there so much that they don't go up into Gotham except at night because they're afraid of the lights. So you can't see these kids. They're stealing things from up top, bringing them down to the Sewer King. It's a twisted fucking Batman villain. Like all of this works. It's awesome. Like it should be, but with the way it was executed in the animated series, it's like, all right, well, Batman's got to kill a crocodile.
Yeah, and it's so great. A giant ass crocodile, and he just breaks its jaw and it's done.
I did like that episode though for the scene in which the kid is at Wayne Manor and Alfred has to take care of him and shenanigans occur and Batman doesn't help.
No. Batman's like, have fun, Alfred. And the kid's like stealing silverware and doesn't even care.
The most Batman does is like, there's this no guns message where he has a gun and Batman's like, no, guns are not for kids. It's like, all right, network. Thank you.
I do really like the Sewer King for all those things that you just mentioned. Of course, Harley's my favorite. I liked Renee Montoya. I think I liked her more in the comic book. We got to see a lot from her. Nora Freeze, again, talking about just that recreation of the origin of Mr. Freeze, just gets me every single time. Andrea Beaumont is great. Red Claw I could do without. Lockup I don't even remember. Great on Condiment King, just doing his thing. He's like the silliest villain, but whatever.
And you touched a little bit on Nora Freeze. So they also changed existing characters in the animated series, like Mr. Freeze's origin. That was a big deal. It won them an Emmy, I believe, a daytime Emmy, maybe nighttime, before that episode of Heart of Ice. And it's one of those where it's only a one-parter, but it worked so well that it eventually made it into the big screen. Now, it wasn't Batman and Robin, but it happened. And that's in a movie that Paul Dini was on set for because as a consultant. And I believe he was there for the scene in which the tear rolls and it turns into snowflakes.
Yes. So good.
But to this day, that and Robin's Reckoning, I mean, these are episodes that are not just good cartoons, not just good shows, but it proved that this show was elevating the medium. It really cemented Batman the Animated Series as not just a good cartoon, but an amazing fucking show.
And I think what's so impactful, at least for me, about the changing of the origin of Mr. Freeze is there's very few villains in this whole show that you didn't feel something for, that you didn't understand, oh, this is why they're doing what they're doing. I get it to some degree. And so they weren't just bad guys just to be bad guys. They all had things. I mean, Poison Ivy is a great example, right? She truly believed she was doing what's best for the world and get rid of people, right? Or
just like Ra's al Ghul, get rid of people.
Right? I know Ra's is your favorite.
They should have teamed up. I don't know why they never did.
But Mr. Freeze, of course, taking care of his wife. Even, the episode, one of my favorites is Harley's Holiday, where she gets out of Arkham Asylum and is marked sane. And she's just so worried about having to go back there that she fucks it all up and goes back in there anyway. So there's always something about these villains. You can find one in this show that you relate to and you're like, oh, okay, I get it.
I liked hearing Paul Dini and Bruce Timm talk about back when Fatman on Batman was about Batman, when they talked about the creation or the reinvention of this Mr. Freeze and how Paul Dini and Bruce were like, this is the most heartfelt villain we've written. And in spite of the fact that he has this very monotone voice in which they had to constantly tell the actor, like, no, you got to go flatter. No, even flatter, like more. And it was a struggle to get him to just do a flat, cold voice. And I mean, that's against what you do as an actor, right? So it probably was a fun challenge, I would assume. But even though he has every bit of the way he acts and he looks and sounds tells you that he's just absolutely flat, cold, nothing, just straight to vengeance. But then you learn about the origin and it's all love-based. And it's incredible how you really see how truly sensitive Mr. Freeze is, because it involves his sick wife, and you as a viewer, you're like, Batman, like, help the guy out and let him kill the humanitarian who was voiced by Mark Hamill.
And I wish they had continued that story in the series. I know they continued it in the comic book series, which just made me mad, but I think ended up with a happy ending anyway. But and then it got crazy when they started releasing all these movies. We're not talking about those. We're just talking about the show.
I didn't like how in the comics they made her into a villain too, like Nora. I'm like, come on.
Or she like married that evil guy or something like that, who was a jerk.
Right. Well, in the animated comics, you're right. There is a happy ending where she goes and looks for Victor, but in the main continuity, she ends up becoming a villain too, having frozen powers just like Victor.
No.
You guys are dicking around too much with
right.
it. Leave it alone.
Calm down.
Leave her forever frozen. Like, that's how it should be. There was also Clayface. They messed around with his origin, the Matthew Hagen version, and very similar to where it is tragic. They pour all of that makeup thing that he uses onto him, and it's an overdose, basically, that disfigures him horribly. And he goes after the same people, the same company. Daggett, I think, was the guy's name, and it's another one where it's like, come on, Batman, like, just let that one guy die. Don't try to stop Clayface that hard. Poison Ivy's friendship with Harley Quinn, that was a pretty big change, too.
Yeah, that's like super iconic even now, too. And their relationship has just further evolved as Paul Dini and Bruce Timm would have wanted.
What's interesting, when you look at the characters and you don't see that friendship, there's nothing that should work there. Like, as far as why they're friends, because Harley Quinn does not have the same agenda as Poison Ivy, and Poison Ivy definitely doesn't have the same agenda of, I'll just help you with Joker. They're very different characters that, for all intents and purposes, should have no reason to be friends, but they have that connection of the abuse that Joker gives Harley and Poison Ivy being that friend. I guess the connection came in Arkham, right? That's really where they solidified that friendship.
Yeah, but I don't think it's that far-fetched, because sometimes the best friendships are very opposite. One of my best friends and I we talk almost every single day, and we have a great, relationship and a great friendship, but we're extremely different, even in the way we talk and the way we view things. And that's almost what's so great about our friendship, is every time we talk, we pick up something else from each other. And that way we can continue to grow. And I mean, even you and I, right? I would say, we're married, we're friends, right? But extremely different in all these different things. And that's sometimes, like I said, what makes it great. So I love that they put that in there. I think it probably started as just, they're both female, like, make them roommates. I don't know. Pillow fights. But I think there's really, Poison Ivy is very closed off from people, and Harley isn't going to let her be that way because of Harley's personality. And on the flip side, Ivy probably grounds Harley a little bit because Harley just flies off the walls. And so I think that's why they work so well together. And I just enjoy it every time they're in anything coexisting.
And I'm happy that Bruce Timm allowed more Harley, because Paul Dini apparently kept trying to write Harley in after her initial, she's just a hench woman and that's it. But then Paul loved the character so much, he based it off of the voice actor, Arlene Sorkin, and kept putting her into episodes. And then eventually Bruce Timm, and she grew onto her own, right? They started messing with the origin, giving her own episodes. And back then she wasn't at all popular the way she is now, where they're talking about giving her own movie. At one point during the Snyderverse, it was going to be a Joker Harley Quinn movie. And I really don't know how viewers viewed her back then when the show was airing, but they must have gotten feedback that they loved the character. And if not, the people that worked on it probably were like, she's such a fun character. Let's see what else we can do with her.
Yeah, and I think she was a great compliment to Joker too, which probably it made him a little bit softer anytime that she was there. So it was probably another reason to put her into more episodes, because then you could use the Joker more often and not for example, Joker fish, right? That would be terrifying, but then you got Harley singing this little jingle and it just all works together. But I do want, for the record, I liked Harley before she was cool.
You did.
So I remember we bought one of the comic books. I think it was her first appearance.
Batman Adventures 12, yeah.
And it was $10 at the time. And we're like, oh, $10. Like, I guess we'll spend $10 on this comic. And now I don't even know what it's worth. But
Right. Yeah. That was a big deal, too, for us, not just because comics didn't hit that dollar amount back then. Like,
Right.
they weren't like you see them now where it's common to see, oh, a $300 wall book, sure. But back then, with our income, too, on top of that.
when we were young.
Absolutely. It was a big deal. So, but that was the last thing I had on here was the Joker-Harley Quinn relationship, because the episodes that don't have Harley Quinn are a lot darker. Like the one with him spreading gas throughout Gotham City, the Joker gas through the trash, and he has a robotic Joker and all of that.
Yeah.
You throw in Harley Quinn and that would give it a softer touch and everything. But in this case, I mean, it creates this relationship that people can talk about. Like, he's abusive to her. He doesn't really love her. Like, there's these changes that people constantly, and she's always running right back to him. And to this point, the character has changed. She's, from what I've seen in the comics, in the TV show, she's completely detached from the Joker. She is her own character. She's independent. With the help of Poison Ivy, she's even told Punchline, you're at the beginning of this journey that I went through. You don't understand what the Joker's doing to you, how he's manipulating you. So they made it clear that Harley Quinn, from what I'm seeing, is not going to be at Joker's side anytime soon, especially now that she has more than a friendship with Poison Ivy.
And I think that was a great story to tell. I think for a lot of people that could be super encouraging to see this character that we all know and love, who started out in a very abusive, manipulative relationship and has moved through that. And yeah, still a little crazy, right? But coming into her own and doing her own things. But my Harley will always be that Harley who is stuck to the Joker's side and doing everything he asks and, you know, accepting that he pushed her out a window and then she still left her a flower and she was like, oh my God, I love him so much. I'm like, oh, what's wrong with you?
Eat the fish. But Mr. J, I'm allergic to, and he puts it in. We've got other Batman news here and discussion as, despite multiple projects involving multiple Batman actors, there have been no attempts to get Christian Bale back into the Batsuit, and this is according to Christian. He said, quote, no. Nobody reaches out to me, or they keep me like a mushroom, keep me in the dark, and feed me shit. And this was in an interview with comicbook.com. Quote, for me, that would be a matter of Chris Nolan. If he ever decided to do it again, and if he chose to come my way again, then yeah, I would consider it. Because that was always our pact between each other, is we would just stick to it, end quote. People got really excited about that news, but they seem to forget that as of right now, Chris Nolan is no longer with Warner Brothers. He is now with Universal, I believe. Warner Brothers let that friendship go, that relationship, and that's one that David Zaslav, since he's become the head of Warner Brothers, the rumor is that he has gone and spoken to Chris Nolan for whatever reason. He's spoken to Zach is another rumor. So either he's trying to repair these relationships that he's had, or he's trying to find out what happened so that he can help clean house even more in his company. Who knows what those reasons are, but right now you got to fix that relationship before we talk about any kind of new Nolan Batman film.
Yeah, and I don't know that we'll ever see it happen. It's great that he's going and attempting to repair the relationship, and even if the answer is no, that I did my time there and I'm not moving forward or going back into that situation, then at least he tried, right? And he apologized and he is trying to do the right thing, and I think that's fantastic. But do I ever think we'll see Christian Bale Batman again? Probably not. But I would love to hear his voice one more time.
That's the one thing that people are like, no more of that, though.
What are the other drugs calling?
That's Nolan's fault, too. Everyone gets mad at Christian, but it was all Nolan. In post-production, he's like, we need to make it gruffier. And that's what made it worse, because the way Christian does it, it's in Batman Begins. And that's before they did heavy manipulation in The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. So that's Nolan's fault, y'all. That's not Christian.
I love it. It will always hold a special place in my heart.
I know I'm totally okay with not seeing him again, if that be the case. I know for a lot of people, that's people's Batman. I totally get that. For me, it's Kevin Conroy because I grew up with that Batman.
Mhm.
But I'm more excited for a Ben Affleck Batman movie. I think that's way more likely at this point with all these hints like Zach just put up this week, this teaser image or video of Own It on Digital, Zack Snyder's Justice League. But it has that broken logo from the Snyder Cut. And then when it flashes yellow, the logo is like a little bit more restored. It's got some cracks in it, but it's cleaned up a lot. So people are like, why is there restoration? Oh, shit. Like the restoration's happening. It's a hint.
You don't know that. Maybe somebody just messed something up. I don't know.
Zach did it. It's all on purpose. So we're going to get the Ben Affleck movie, I think, before we ever get a Christian Bale one.
Oh, for sure.
And I can't wait for it. I think it's going to happen in the next, probably by the end of this year, we'll know when the Snyderverse is returning. I don't know if you know, but Christian is in that new Thor movie as a villain. And I kept saying, like, what a waste of fucking talent, right? Every time. Like, every time they get these big actors like Jeff Goldblum, they had Matt Damon in there as a joke. And it's like, you guys are just wasting this talent, guys, like, especially in the MCU. And he took the role, didn't really, like, know. He's like, everyone kept asking him, you're a part of the I'm like, I'm not a part of anything. What are you talking about? Like, he doesn't even know what the MCU is.
I remember I saw that trailer for the Thor movie and, you know, he plays the villain, so he's all in like paint and a different color or whatever. And I kept being like, I know who is that? And I had to go look it up. And I was like, oh, yeah, you see it now.
In that same interview, Bale said that he still has not seen the Pattinson movie, but claims that he will.
Did he say it like, I'm going to go see it? Or was like, yeah, I'll see it.
He was very diplomatic about it, like, he's a very good actor, and I'm very excited for him. And we met up before he started doing the movie. Like, he was saying all that.
Right.
But he still hasn't seen it. Like, it's kind of a weird thing to say.
He's not going to go see it. Just don't even pretend Christian Bale. Stop acting. Just tell the truth.
I don't know if you grew up with Spy Kids, but they are returning via Netflix through a film reboot. Do you have any experience with Spy Kids? It was fucking huge.
It was. So
15 years ago.
So I do have some. My brother was really into the movies, and I remember there was one summer we stayed with my grandma, and like we only had that DVD, and we watched the third one like 47 times.
Spy Kids 3D.
Was it the third one? Maybe it was the second one. I don't remember. So I saw all of them. The only thing I remember is, I forgot his name, and he was a giant head through the whole thing. George Lopez. Giant head through the whole thing, and that's all that I remember from those movies. Antonio Banderas was the dad.
Yes.
I remember that too. I don't know why I only remember the Hispanics. Here we are.
All of Robert's friends, probably.
Yeah. So anyway, I remember enjoying them as a kid, but I think I was just like past that age where I was really crazy about it and like the story and all that kind of stuff. But my brother really liked them.
So George always, in his stand-up, he talks about how his mom would constantly talk about his giant head. So that's why they made him that villain in the movies.
I love it.
I personally was not into them. My brother was, and I don't know how many of them he watched, but I know they made a ton of them. And I also know that the special effects in those movies are on par with the MCU movies today.
Oh, okay,
like,
perfect.
It's one of those things, people keep screenshotting these new movies like Spider-Man, and they're like, this looks like Spy Kids. Like, what the fuck? So Robert Rodriguez will write, produce, and direct the reboot of his own film.
Might as well.
I mean, that's like, you don't hear about that. Normally they get new blood in there, someone else that's going to do justice or whatever, honor the original films. And he's like, no, I'll do it. I'll fucking do it.
I'll honor the original films with my own damn self.
So this will be the 5th film in the franchise, all of which have been directed by Rodriguez. And the films have taken in a combined $550 million at the box office. Who knows how many in DVD sales, like you were mentioning, in TV sales. No release date has been given, but holy shit, man, I did not think we'd get more fucking Spy Kids. It was all about Shark Girl and Lava Boy, right?
Lava Girl and Shark Boy.
Sure.
Close. Yeah.
That was like the spinoff or that other thing he was trying to take off.
Yes. And I watched some of that and I was like, oh, this is lame as hell.
Spy Kids is where it's at.
Yeah, I think it'll do really well. I'm just gonna be honest. If it's coming directly to Netflix, they do a great enough job of advertising these things to kids. It's really easy to click on. I don't know. I remember thinking it was an interesting enough story that kids would like it. And if it's being written, directed, whatever, all by the same guy, then I don't see any reason that it doesn't hit the age group that's there now.
I'm going to tell my brother about it tomorrow and see if Like, because he's the audience that they could recapture, right? Just to see, like, hey, there's a new reboot coming. And see
My
what
brother
happens.
probably too.
Interesting.
Your brother's going to go, oh, cool. Just like that. If he doesn't, you let me know.
All right, I'll let you know.
But if he does, then I'm awesome.
Well, something that is awesome and cool is Top Gun Maverick. I can officially say that since I have seen it. And it has officially reached the $1 billion fucking dollar mark at the worldwide box office. It has beaten the Pattinson movie. It has beaten Doctor Strange. It is the highest grossing movie of this year. According to Deadline, Top Gun Maverick has earned about $521.7 million domestically and internationally $484.7 million. Last week, it officially became Tom Cruise's biggest movie ever.
Who would have thought?
Exactly right. Like every time I talk about how unbelievable this shit is, like I talk my coworkers or friends, and they're like, I could see that being big. Yeah, I can see how.
No.
It's like no one thought $1 billion fucking dollars though.
If you had told me how's it going to do, I'd be like, I don't know.
Like most people were saying, I thought it was out already. It was delayed for like 3 years. You don't see that kind of shit. But the only explanation I can think of now, like now that I've seen it, before I was saying on this podcast, I have no idea what's causing it. I don't know what is happening. Now I understand after I've watched it. Granted, we're in Florida, but my theater was full of older people, senior citizens.
What are you saying about Florida?
Also, they by the way, they like to sit at the edge of the rows for some reason. It was like I was parting the gray seat.
The gray seat stuff.
The silver seat.
You can't say stuff like that.
And I was in the middle. I was like, how come everyone else, they love being at the edge of the rows? I have no idea.
You think
why.
like if they got to pee, they can get up so they can get out faster?
And they don't, or they don't have to like struggle through the rows or the seats. That could be another thing, especially if someone's already sitting there. They're bad knees, bad back, all of that. These are just, I'll let you guys know in another 30 years.
I would just like you to know that we are almost to that stage.
I almost said I'll let you know in 50 years. And I'm like, wait, I'll be dead in 50 years, 30 years.
You have some gray coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
anyway, continue.
So after having seen it, and I told you about this, but haven't talked about it on the show, it's an old school film. And I don't mean that as in it feels like a movie that was made in the 80s or anything like that. It's got the themes. It's got this very straightforward, I don't want to say simple, but there's very little, from what I noticed, there's no politics at work here. There's no message being sent about morality or diversity or anything like that, which I'm not saying is good or bad, but I'm just saying this is the reality of this particular movie. It's about Tom Cruise's character, much older, who's still got it, going through the film. He's got these newer cadets that he needs to train, and he's also got this background death from the first film that he needs to get through and get over. And so the character goes through this journey, and then throughout the movie, you have him doing some cool stuff in airplanes, jets, whatever, jet fighters, amazing effects. So there's very little CGI. They filmed a lot of these planes doing all these crazy tricks and doing these amazing flight patterns. And they had him in either a G-force thing or sitting in the back of one of these planes, because you see him and the other actor's skin like moving up and down. So they're clearly feeling G-force. And it's pretty incredible to see all of that as a spectacle. It is absolutely incredible. It's better than in my opinion, what you get with most superhero films. And again, the plot is those are the bad guys. Here's the good guys. And there's this father-son type of relationship in there and just stuff that you can relate with. And some of the criticisms I've heard on it is toxic masculinity was the only thing. But I guess the only part of that that's in there sort of from the first one is there's a bet going on in between the other cadets and Tom Cruise. And it's like whoever loses has to do 200 push-ups. Like there's some of that. The antagonist, I guess, or one of the fighters that's against the other one. There's always like the Val Kilmer type character. And I'm not going too much into spoilers or anything, but he is sort of picking on the other one and not calling him like a girl or like, none of that shit that you would say, oh, that's kind of toxic masculinity. Not demasculating the guy, but he is instead telling him like, you don't have what it takes type of thing, that kind of criticism. You always hesitate when it comes to the important moment. So I don't see it anywhere. I don't get that criticism for it. And apparently neither do the rest of the world because it's made a fucking $1 billion. And that's the only thing I can get where people were waiting for a movie that stars an older actor, that stars a known actor, that just gives us action, a solid story, no crazy messages in there, no heavy messages. And I know I'm normally the guy that loves that. Like, I like to dive in and analyze a thing. While there is some of that, the emotion got me. Like, it's really bizarre. So now I sort of really see why the older audiences went to go see it, and no one I work with who are in their 20s, except for Bobby, at least up front, has seen it. So it's not this age group, the younger age group. It is definitely adults, probably people in my age range and much older.
So it sounds like there wasn't a lot of complexity in the movie. It was just go and watch it and enjoy and forget about whatever's going outside just for a little bit.
I think so, but not in a way of like The Expendables, where it's just mindless action, or a Schwarzenegger movie, because there's heart in it. There's a lot of heart in the film. So I don't know. Like, it's more complex than that, but not so much, I guess.
It's like emotionally complex, but not like mentally complex.
Sure.
Like nothing in it that people have to argue over when you get out of it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no debating after that. There's nothing. It's a cool movie, and it's got a love story too. So
I love love stories. Is it a good love story?
You'll have to let me know after you see it.
We'll have to go see it.
And with Spy Kids, Batman the Animated Series, Sonic Origins, all of that made up our block of news this week. We have the What's New on HBO Max, the July 2022 highlights. So the first one on this list is one that, unfortunately now, at least I'm not seeing it, you're more than welcome to, but Harley Quinn Season 3 is joining in July 2022. Now, the reason I'm not seeing it is they put in pedal perv James Gunn into the show, and Stemet did an amazing job on Twitter where he photoshopped what James Gunn was looking at, and he put in Netflix's cuties on there, and it's like, yeah, that's character accurate. If they make a pedo joke in there, like, they don't have the balls to do it, I don't think. But if they do, depending on the context, I'll be like, hats off, man. But he's voicing him too and all that shit. So I'm like, no, y'all are friendly with that guy. I can't support it anymore. I'm sorry. Right. And I like the first 2 seasons, but I got to stick to my principles.
Totally understand. I will miss the plant because he was the best part.
Yeah. Voiced by J.B. Smoove, I think. Also in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yes.
Next one on this list is the unrated version of Frank Miller's Sin City. It's on a lot of people's lists of top comic book adaptations. I don't think that's one that you would particularly enjoy. Have you ever seen it?
I saw the second one. We went to see the second one in theaters. I don't think I ever saw the first.
The first is better made. And I think this one was directed by Robert Rodriguez, if I remember correctly.
Good for him. He's just doing all these things.
And they did a lot to recreate the panels in the comic books. There's black and white. The blood is like all white completely. So it's got some really neat special effects, but it is violent. It is a very noir detective type of sort of story, and a little bit on the cheesy side, but that's obviously all on purpose and everything. So I don't know how much they added with the unrated version, and it has been a very long time since I've seen it. So I might check it out just for the extra couple of scenes.
The next one you have on this list is Godzilla 1998. So that's the one with Matthew Broderick. Okay.
Same director as Independence Day.
Oh, man. What a time to be alive.
If this had a Jeff Goldblum-like character, it would have been, I think, right up there with Independence Day.
Matthew Broderick's really kind of weird, too.
Yeah, but not in a good... Like, I remember you saying that you didn't like him in that role or in any of his roles.
No, I don't think I've ever seen him in anything that I liked him in.
There's like a funny French guy, but that's about it. And Hank Azaria's in there, too.
We'll have to watch it again. I have not seen it. My brother, again, was obsessed with it. Anything with dinosaurs, Godzilla, whatever. He loved it.
It's a cool movie.
So we will have to watch it again.
Another one on this one is a Kevin Bacon movie, Hollow Man. It's a remake. He discovers the serum that lets him go invisible, but unfortunately, there's a side effect of you go insane. So he starts murdering people, he starts fondling women, he starts doing all this crazy shit. It becomes a killer story by the end.
So if he goes invisible, do you not see him for most of the movie?
Yes, actually.
Okay, so I might be able to watch it.
Like, they picked the right actor.
If I don't have to see his face, we're okay.
Right. I also added Sleepless in Seattle. So speaking of Matthew Broderick, who starred in The Cable Guy, in The Cable Guy, he helps get his girl back by suggesting that they watch Sleepless in Seattle. And
that was a reach, but great job.
He says, Robin loves that movie, and Jim Carrey says, they all do. So, have you seen Sleepless in Seattle? I have
seen Sleepless.
Do you love it?
I do not love it.
Interesting.
I don't know. I never bonded with either of the characters. in this. I thought it was, I don't know, just odd. But I also recognize it was filmed in a time where you don't have as much technology as we do now. So maybe you did have to listen to a radio. I don't know. Maybe I saw it at a sleepover in high school, and so I wasn't really paying attention. We may have to rewatch it again, but I just don't remember really being crazy about it.
If you want to catch up on Spy Kids before they inevitably do hit exclusively on Netflix, I'm sure he's going to work out a deal to put all of them just on Netflix. Spy Kids 1 through 3 are going to be on HBO Max. Not ones I'll revisit myself. There they are.
Leo might like them. We'll play them for him.
The last one on this list is Mad Max Fury Road, starring Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron, who did an awesome job. Her character Furiosa is now getting a spin-off film.
That's awesome.
But it's a prequel, so she won't star in it. Instead, it's going to be Anya Taylor-Joy, who's very much not like, good actor too, but not like Charlize Theron at all.
Well.
But Fury Road is one of those that it's like criminally underrated still, I'll say, because at Target, it's like in the $5 Blu-ray section. I'm like, that is way underpriced. It's well worth $5. So if you have it, if you're one, I know it didn't do crazy numbers at the box office. It did fine, but not like as good as it should have. Check out Fury Road if you've got HBO Max. It's another one that the director, George Miller, loves doing special effects practically. So you get people swinging from one car to the other, throwing fake bombs down at the other one. So all of that shit was for real. They had them on little stilts and all that shit. So check all that out, if anything, to admire the really cool car and character special effects.
I don't know. There were a lot of cool things in that movie, but I just felt like it, I don't know. I got to the end and I was like, that's it? Like, what else? Like, make it even better. Like, it wasn't, I guess, a total happy ending in the way that it just wrapped up every little thing. It left room for things to continue to improve that you get to formulate in your own mind.
I remember you wanted a love story between Tom Hardy and Furiosa.
I just want a love story and everything. Why are you even surprised?
That was back in the times where they were like, good for that movie for not just forcing in a love story.
We're still in that time, but I just want everybody to have a love story.
I love on Twitter recently, people are constantly talking about, and we might have been guilty of it back when we talked about Frozen, I don't remember, but we gave credit to Paul Dini for Maleficent for having the first non-love story love. So in that case for Maleficent, it was mother-daughter love. And then in Frozen, it was sister-sister. Like that, those relationships are very rarely explored. And people were saying that it's great that in Frozen, it's the first sister-sister love relationship that is focused on. And the director or writer to Lilo and Stitch is like, what the fuck? Like, why is Lilo and Stitch ignored?
That actually came out, and I don't think we ever talked about it on here. And I remember we did praise Frozen for that, but I will say that I never really watched Lilo and Stitch. Like, I've seen it since, but I think it was just in that weird time in my life where I'm like, meh, Disney movies, and I don't know, it just never really grabbed me. And I have a really great appreciation for it now. But when Frozen came out, I saw a side-by-side where they were talking about, you know, first sister, right? Great depiction. And then it showed Lilo and Stitch next to it. And then another one they mentioned was like, oh, strong women taking care of themselves for the first time. And then Mulan was next to it. And like all these things that they praised Frozen for being the first to do. Like there was a different Disney movie that had done those things prior. And we just all, I mean, Frozen was so overrated. And I was just done with it by the end of that huge push, and I just don't ever need to see it again.
Moana's way better.
I do like Moana, and it's so funny because I even have the Facebook post where you're like, saw Moana, don't ever need to see it again, and then it was Leo's favorite movie for like a year.
Yeah.
And then the more we watched it, the more I pulled out of it, and I was like, oh man, there really are a lot of good things in this movie. Same with Mulan, it's still one of my favorites. Did
you ever see the Mulan remake? I heard it was fucking terrible.
I watched half of it, and then I stopped, and I was like, no. The one that I did start watching, and then Leo lost interest, Raya and the Last Dragon, and I did want to finish that one, because the whole premise is it's a girl trying to save her dad, and I was like, oh, man. I can get on board with that. But they just tried to infuse so much humor in that movie, too, where I was like, I don't know. But that is on my list to finish. It didn't blow up like the other movies, so I don't know. I guess it's probably not that good.
But there you go. Some solid highlights for what's coming to HBO Max next month. Next week, we will have what's new on Netflix. And again, these are just the highlights. If you want the full list, comicbook.com does have the article for the full listing of everything coming to HBO Max, including some of their originals. But it's just stuff that we don't watch or haven't seen, so can't really speak too much on them. But with that, we go into the final segment of today's episode. It is the Broket Block, what PALPAKELLI and I have been doing since you last heard us. So PALPAKELLI, you just got back from an out-of-town vacation with Leo and your parents.
Yeah, so we went up to Blue Ridge, Georgia, which is pretty much the middle of nowhere, very much North Georgia, middle of the mountains. So we stayed in a cabin up there, which had a creek that ran by it, and we ended up staying longer than I wanted to because unfortunately you couldn't come with us, so I didn't want to drive back with Leo. It's a solid 8 hours, to get back home. So I found an incredibly cheap flight out of Atlanta. It was $38 a piece. And I was like, well, shit, I can't drive it for that. So we ended up staying a few extra days. It just meant that I had to do some work when I was up there. But it was really nice. It's very different. Our last few years of vacation have been to the beach, and beaches in Florida, there's always something around to do. You spend the morning on the beach and then you drive 10 minutes and you're in a little town. And, I say little town, it's Florida, right?
Beach town,
you're
sure.
in a beach town and you can walk around and there's science centers and different things to take Leo to. And that's not the case here. There was a town maybe about 15 minutes away, but really anything else you wanted to see was about an hour. So we just spent most of the time sitting around and relaxing, and Leo enjoyed being in the creek and catching lightning bugs at night and sitting and watching YouTube Kids on his iPad in the middle of nowhere. And, those types of things are very relaxing for me to just say, whew, okay, let me turn off my brain and just sit here for a day. So it was really great. It was great to spend the time with my parents, and, Leo just had a blast with them. They had a great time watching him run around. And so, of course, we left. They stayed for a few extra days. And actually, my dad texted me. He's like, we're coming back a day early. And I'm like,
Wow.
Okay, whatever you want to do. So it was really nice. We wish that you could have been there too. But, with everything going on with work, it was good to get away and turn off my brain. And I know Leo enjoyed us, him and I having that time together. And he thankfully wanted to sleep in his own bed because I don't know how I would have survived if he was next to me, because he kicks.
But this was his first airplane ride, right?
It was. So he was fantastic in the airport. Funny story, I actually lost my driver's license prior to leaving on this trip, and I didn't realize it till the morning of. So I called the airline and I was like, oh my God, I don't have my driver's license. I have a picture of it. And they're like, just bring your birth certificate and you'll be fine. And, I use that to cruise. So I was like, oh, perfect. Yeah, I got that one. And then I get to the airport and they're like, that doesn't work. And I was like, okay, so what do you need? And they're like, I don't know. Do you have a credit card with your name on it? I was like, sure, it doesn't have my picture. They're like, whatever, go on through. And I was like, okay, thanks, airport. But Leo was fantastic. He stayed right by my side. He was just in awe of everything. And then, every window we passed, is that my airplane? Is that my airplane? And and he was just so good. And he's just such a charming kid. So everyone we passed was just, everyone he talked to, or anytime we'd see like a flight attendant or someone who worked for the airline, he's like, hi, I'm Leo, just introducing himself. And he was just in awe. It was only an hour flight, so pretty much you get up, they turn off the seatbelt for 5 minutes, and then they turn it back on. But he was looking out the window and, just really enjoyed it. And then we got to the end, and he's like, can we go on a longer one next time? And maybe could. I don't know. This was stressful for me to keep track of you in an airport.
I know while you were gone, I did some yard work, and I ended up still working, which is the whole reason, I needed the pay. So I still went to work. I still got up early. I went to the gym. I went to the gym an extra day or two on top of that. So for me, it wasn't like I had all morning or whatever to do whatever, but I did catch up on Jurassic Park. I finished the novel, which was what the movies were loosely based on. So I saw all the differences, like the blood-sucking lawyer lives throughout the whole book. And I'm like, yes. But his character is pretty different in the book. Like, he's not like in the movie where he's like, we're going to make a shit ton of money. Instead, that's Hammond, who does die in the book. And it's like, good. He's a piece of shit in that. And they also kill off Ian Malcolm in the book as well. So that's another thing that he ended up changing for the sequel. I've never read The Lost World, so I don't know how he explained it away, but it was because of the popularity of the character in the film that he changed it in the book. So there you go. Probably the studio going, well, we need him in the new one, so make sure to use that character. And he's like, all right, I'll write that. And I heard it wasn't as good. I don't know. But we did end up seeing Jurassic World Dominion. I saw it for the first time. You and Leo saw it for the second time. Just kind of a mini sort of, I know we said we would review it on here, but at least we're discussing it now. And what were your thoughts on this last installment of the Jurassic World trilogy?
Quote unquote last. I really enjoyed it. So I think that there was so much in there that if you loved the first movie or the characters within that first movie, especially in the second half of this movie, they had so many ties into that first movie. And so it felt almost like a love letter wrapping up this whole, quote unquote, wrapping it up, right? But just to bring it all back together and say, okay, here's a nod to some of your favorite scenes, right? Or here's Ian Malcolm and Ellie Sattler and Dr. Grant. I forget his first name, whatever. Dr. Grant. And, reminding you or even in some instances reenacting, right, these scenes and these moments that you loved and getting to see some of the older dinosaurs like the Dilophosaurus, the one Dilophosaurus.
Yes.
And I mean, spoilers a little bit, I guess. Even it's not whipped cream, shaving cream can coming back too, and the way that character died.
He turned it into whipped cream when he put it on the apple pie.
That's what I'm thinking, whipped cream.
I love that scene because it's not in the book, and he just looks around like, there. He just puts it on the apple pie. Newman.
So all these things that are coming back, and so like I said, that second half of the movie, I'm like, oh man, like this is what I came here for. And then of course Leo loved it. He loved seeing the dinosaur fights, and he can pronounce every single dinosaur, and heaven forbid we pronounce it wrong because he's going to let us know.
Right.
That we didn't say it the right way, but he references that movie all the time now. And of course, we have most of the toys because we had to. And is it any different than any other Jurassic Park movie that you've ever seen? No, it's the same thing. Dinosaurs get loose. Dinosaurs be going crazy. People be dying. There's an evil guy who's just trying to make money, who's trying to make you think he's not trying to make money. And I eat it up, and I loved it.
I did put out a call for opinions on Dominion, and we did get a response from @nonjor_beats, who said, quote, "Since I was 10 years old, they've sold me the same movie 6 times. Reckon I still got time for another 6, end quote.
Hell yeah. And I would keep watching them when they inevitably reboot this, when they continue forward. Absolutely. I'm here for it. I know you really enjoyed the pieces of them saying, yeah, these dinos you got in the park were not the way they should be, but now they're actually evolving and changing into what they would be. So we get to see a few feathered dinosaurs in there.
Well, not even that. What they were saying, because I think Dr. Grant brings it up. So what kind of splicing are you guys using to finish the DNA? And they were like, we're not using any splicing. We're using pure DNA. And it's in that same scene that they showcase a little feathered dinosaur. So that was a way of explaining, like, we're no longer doing the amphibian DNA stuff to try to fill in the gaps in the genome. And I don't know how they explain that they're able to get more pure DNA or results or whatever, but they're like, these are pure dinosaurs that we're starting to get out there. And that's how they were able to explain how we did get more quote unquote realistic looking dinosaurs in this case. And yeah, they still, like, that's one of the things, they can't go fully 100% what they looked like or what they believe they looked like, because they still had like the scaly snouts, even on the feathered dinosaur, like he still has the scaly sort of raptor mouth on it, the pyrosaur, but then he's covered in feathers and from like the head back, the eyes backwards. So, some artists kind of had their fun with it, I guess. But then you get the little one that is fully covered in feathers. It's like, okay, that one looks a little bit closer to like a more bird-like animal. And even in the Jurassic Park book, they constantly talk about how Grant's surprised at how the dinosaurs move like birds and perch like birds and all this other stuff. So that's one of the things that even in the books they were starting to put in there. And yeah, they say they're scaly because back then they didn't know. So, but they do emphasize in the book that they are related to birds rather than lizards or reptiles or alligators or anything like that, or amphibians. As cool as that would be, they're not.
Well, even like in one of the movies, though, I think it's Dr. Wu or something points out, like, people come here to see monsters. They don't want to see what they really look like.
Right.
And so I appreciate the movies for that, because at the time that they made the first movie, yeah, that's what we thought dinosaurs looked like. Like, everybody thought they looked that way. And obviously science is constantly evolving. And so to be able to change that and make that part of the movie, because they could have easily just went, nope, this is our dinosaurs, right? But Wu was still there being, I don't know, weird. But I did think it was interesting. So the last two movies, of course, featured Owen and Claire. And I was like, oh, yeah, they're pretty cool. And then they, open this movie. And I'm still like, okay, pretty cool. And then you show up, the original characters. And I'm like, Owen and Claire who? Like, these guys are way better. Like, give me another movie with these three in their 60s running around. And I am here for it.
And I love that they still had, because I asked you, I'm like, so they're probably just in it for like a few minutes, right? And you're like, no, they're pretty much in it throughout the whole thing. I love that. And I love that they had them doing physical stuff like in the old movies. It wasn't just, let's have the younger actors or whatever, and they're going to be pressing buttons and whatnot. No, they had them fighting dinosaurs too. And it's like, fuck yeah, that's what I wanted. And there's a love story between Claire and Chris, and there's like this parental thing there. But then there's another love story between Dr. Grant and Ellie, and it's like,
finally, that's all I needed. When I saw them together, I'm like, as soon as Ellie was like, no, we're separated, I'm like, this is your moment, Dr. Grant. Go.
Yeah, and I love that there's that message too. They reconcile that whole bit from Jurassic Park 3, I think, where he talked about how he didn't want to have kids and she has her own family now, and that whole thing is not happening. But now that they're old again,
yeah, why not?
It's like, here we go.
They're both single.
They fixed that relationship.
Finally, they needed to. And then, of course, Ian Malcolm has like 1 million kids and running around with his shirt unbuttoned again. He was probably my favorite character in that whole movie. He was hilarious.
A lot of great stuff to see. Check out Top Gun Maverick. Check out Jurassic World Dominion. If I had to recommend one, though, Maverick. If we're able to see it, it'd be cool if you and I can go see it, because it is a cool thing to see on the big screen, seeing all the planes and everything. But I'm sure it's just as cool on a big screen TV, too. But otherwise, that does wrap up this week's episode. I do want to remind you that we have a Discord lounge. I mentioned that earlier, where we are posting pictures of Bobby's nationals appearance, but also his Worlds appearance that's going to be coming up in August. So he will be at Pokemon Worlds. You will have the Twitch stream link on there. To join our Discord, just go to the description in the link of today's episode. Also at thereasonsimbroke.com, scroll all the way at the bottom, and you will find the Discord. PALPAKELLI, where can they find you? And also, thank you again for being the co-host this week.
Of course, I was happy to be here. They can find me behind my Kindle or a good book. But my Twitter handle is at PALPAKELLI. Kelly is spelled with an I. I check it sometimes. But otherwise, if you need to get a hold of me, reach out to Daniel. He'll let me know.
But thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. I've been Daniel, joined by the almighty
Emperor PALPAKELLI
and Brokehead Core. All will be well. We had talked about how Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, like I felt like that's kind of an odd pairing just in general. If we knew of not the existence of these episodes, right? Could the same type of friendship work with my two favorite villains, Ra's al Ghul and Sinestro, who have no business at all ever working together, right? Because Sinestro's all about policing the universe, and Ra's al Ghul is about saving the Earth, bringing her back to her origin. What would a conversation look like between the two characters? Like, I just want a couple of pages of them just having a conversation. Like, what would they talk about? Is there anything there at all? Like, would they even respect each other?
I don't know, because I feel like personality-wise, they're very similar, but with different interests. So Ra's is like, people are dumb. I just want the world to be back to its originalness, right, of nature, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas Sinestro is like, all that matters is saving my people. And granted, he does it in like a crappy way where he's like an evil overlord and just killing people and not going about it how he could or should so that his people don't like him. But for Sinestro, and I think we've even seen it in the comics, it doesn't matter what world he's on. He's going to move his people there and do what he needs to do to make sure that they're okay. So very different intentions. The only way that I could potentially see them teaming up is if Sinestro's like, my people are on this world is uninhabitable and I can't do anything about it. And Ra's somehow can use a Lazarus pits to bring that world back to its former glory. And maybe they could team up in that way, but I don't know. I think that would be a little bit of a stretch. I don't think they're sitting down to have coffee together and
I would love that though.
Getting into pillow fights in their underwear.
Do you agree with me that Raish's ring color would be green for will? Like his will is extremely...
Oh yeah, probably.
Overcomes great fear, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't see him as a yellow lantern or red lantern or any of those. I think he'd be a green lantern, much like Batman, who has the option of being green or yellow.
Mm-hmm.
Or white, actually. He was also white.
Batman's all of them.
Yeah.
I think the thing about Ra's too, though, is he's kind of lost that fear because he's lived so many lives, and he's always like, well, if something happens, I'll just dip back in the Lazarus pit and I'll be fine and I'll continue going. So I think that fear doesn't ever happen unless it's the fear of like losing Batman.
Well, there was that one out of continuity story where both Batman and Ra's are very old and the Lazarus pit can only revive one. And Ra's tells him, the strongest will be the one who makes it out of here. Are you willing to take that risk, Bruce? And Bruce is like, okay, Ra's, let's go. And he takes him into the pit and they're going deeper and deeper. And Ra's panics. He's like, no, I don't want to do it. And Batman says, no, let's see who gets out. And he brings him back into the pit. Ra's dies and Batman comes out of it younger. So that's one of those things that Batman's will overcame.
Oh, for sure.
Ra's, of course. He would still be Batman would be the better Green Lantern.
Well, Batman would be the better everything. Like, pick anything and Batman's better.
And the last thing I'll say, too, since we're on the topic, my coworkers and I were talking about Batman Beyond earlier today, and I think it's a bad episode with Ra's Talia, how Batman got a little bit younger. He had a little dose of the Lazarus pit, and Terry's like, I've always wondered what you were like at your prime. And Batman's like, this isn't my prime, but it's way better than what I was. And he's like doing flips and shit, lifting weights, still has that gray on there. And I was like, we were robbed of, like, it's a terrible episode as far as like Talia and Ra's being in her body and all this other weird stuff that happens. Like, that's what they decided to do with the character. Like, I don't know. But we were robbed of like an arc where, what if Batman did use the Lazarus pit for a few episodes and we got a younger Batman back and you wrestle with that thing of like, do I really want Terry? Like, I can do this again. And he would, because it's fucking Batman. So imagine that, like that alternate, they had more options to write, I think, funner, better stories with that interesting aspect of let's get a younger Batman for a few episodes than a one-off thing of it's Ra's and Talia's body.
They did, but the whole purpose of that show was to sell us Terry McGinnis and get us to like him. And if you gave us 6 episodes of a younger Bruce Wayne, ain't nobody tuning back in for Terry McGinnis. No. And then the show would be over and we would just enjoy those 6 episodes.
Or the episode would then change. The show would change to, well, now we've got young Bruce again. All right, Batman series in the future.